Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Here's today's episode.
All right, sir. Talking to us after your performance at the World Team Championship, where Holland didn't quite do the best. You know, you guys got second to last, but as the shining star of the team, you did go, I think, 5-2 over the course of the weekend.
Yep, that's correct.
And since Gellerpox is not all that popular, and a lot of the opinions and a lot of people who talk about Gellerpox probably are named Orion Wolfong on the internet, we figured it'd be fun to talk to someone else who played them to reasonable success. You know, obviously in the team format, you can avoid some of your worst matchups, and we'll talk about what sort of matchups are bad for Gellerpox, what sort of matchups are good for Gellerpox, since we want to hone in a little bit on, you know, first impressions on Gellerpox, especially, you know, with the new stuff coming along. So we could talk a little bit about how you felt in the new stuff, and then kind of lens it back on, you know, what you did well at the World Team Championship, so we can look for commonalities going into your future games on Gellerpox. And for anyone who's interested in playing Gellerpox, it'll be a different perspective on the squishiest of Nurgle's favored sons.
Yeah, I'm happy if I can help.
So, you know, in the pre-show notes, you mentioned that you played a couple games of Gellerpox on the new Approved Ops 2025.
Yep.
What were you expecting going into Approved Ops 2025? Looking at you know, the different TAC ops that you have available now and the new missions, you know, what were you thinking was going to be good on Gellerpox? I'm just kind of curious.
Honestly, my first thought wasn't actually what would be good. Is that the playstyle that I got used to, with being very safe and like setting yourself quite back and trying to only react to your opponent and not really attack, is not gonna fly anymore with the new approved ops. Like most security tech ops require you to get into the other side, and as a slow team in that regard, I haven't figured out which tech op or which set of tech ops would be best working for Gellerpox. I only tried Plant Banner right now and Envoy with some moderate success, I would say. I think one game with Plant Banner was quite well against Harving Salvagers. But when I played against Goremongers, that was a very bad idea. And in the past, like in the 2024 approved ops, Goremongers were a very easy matchup for me with other security TAC ops, but not in this case. Should have went route.
Yeah, I'm guessing that Plant Banner just gave the Goremongers too much of a focal point to focus in on your big hulks or your small guys, because you're sending guys to go defend your banner as the Goremongers close in your position.
Exactly, yeah. So it makes it harder to stage back, because normally my strategy before was I will score some points with the little guys, I will waste an activation with the vermin and so on, and maybe throw a grenade with the mutant or stage for the next turning point, and then leaving the Hawks as a last couple activations to kind of clear the room if my opponent got too close to me. And in this case, that it wasn't possible, because the moment I would plant the banner, immediately my opponent would try to contest that. Obviously, I needed to contest it with one of my hulks, and then that just left me too much in the open. It's still, for Goremongers, for example, it's hard to kill a hulk in one go, but it's still doable, which means that if I'm too exposed, by turn point 4, I may not have a hulk to even have an answer. So in that regard, I'm still figuring out which TAC op would actually work in that matchup.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of interested in if there were any parallels on the old learning for Gellerpox, because obviously you spend a lot of time on Approved Ops 2024. It sounds like playing
Mhm.
Gellerpox, because Gellerpox have a very unique playstyle, and learning those TAC ops. Were there any things that you found learning those TAC ops that you're planning to use going into 2025 as, you know, strong guessing points on I think the strategy is good? Because in the past when I found these windows on the old TAC ops or these old crit ops, that on this new pack you're going to try to use those strengths of Gellerpox. You mentioned Plant Banner. You didn't want to send too many guys in because it forced you to be out in the open. So then
Yeah.
it sounds like maybe you're playing Envoy, or you wanted to play Route so that you could lean into the more aggressive strategies. Are there any learnings from the past that you're trying to use in the future right now?
My current plan is to try out a more aggressive playstyle, if I'm honest. So that was quite a change before. In the new edition, Gellerpox kind of dropped down in terms of being this like very aggressive team that you could just go in with feel no pains, and you, on average, you could disregard at least 5 wounds and just press on. It's not the case anymore, so you have to play more defensively. And what I see with the new TAC ops, probably I need to find some like, my expectation again. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I want to try something in the middle. So being a bit more aggressive, but maybe like split in the middle, like staging 2 Hawks as usual in the previous TAC ops season, with like staging them back and then only giving my opponent 1 or 2 targets and then cleaning up with the next as a follow-up.
So when it comes to the two targets that you will present, what models are they going to be? Is it going to be like the little Poxwalker looking dudes, the little glitchlings, or are you going to send a Hulk forward?
So you don't want to sacrifice the glitchlings. They are your scoring operatives, and in that case, it's either you sacrifice the mutant, or what I was like contemplating right now is you have like two really good melee fighters. That's your leader and the lumberghast. And then you have kind of the other two, which are okay. Especially if you go in against hordes, the blood spawn is perfect. But I think in cases when I want to be a bit more, let's say, defensive on my better melee units, I would actually just sacrifice the blood spawn going in out and try to soften up my opponent on one flank, and then react depending on how they try to like proceed. Again, it also depends on what tack up my opponent picks. Like for goremongers being so fast, like selecting route or some other like how to say it. I didn't check the recon ones too much, so I'm not sure. Like they were very good with plant beacons in the previous season. But for them it's quite easy to score that.
Yeah, I think they used to go confirm kill more often than they would go plant beacons. Although, if they needed to play a more defensive game plan, they certainly could do plant beacons while they run around with their 3 APL. It's just dropping that APL on a Goremonger and then just using the plant beacons is probably not generally a winning strategy. Although against Gellerpox, because you have so many wounds and it can be so easy to get tar pitted by these random feel no pains, maybe it would make more sense in that matchup.
Well, that's actually what my opponent did in the World Teams Championship. So I faced one Goremonger player, and he was playing Plant Beacon there. But like in the end, he lost. It was actually my first game that I had a maximum score ever with Gellerpox. Never before that have I seen 3 6s in that setup.
That was your second round against which team was it?
If I'm not mistaken, that was Poland.
One of the 3 Polish teams.
Yeah, one. So we first 2 rounds were one of the 3 Polish teams for us. They're very good players there, I have to admit. Like their
looking at it,
level
it was Polish Squig Raiders.
Yep.
And that was Fabian. But definitely a hard matchup. It seems like he was thrown by his teammates into the Wolves. So
Yep.
actually, this leads me on to one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I've seen local Gellerpox players in my area kind of struggle to figure out how to play Gellerpox, what their strong matchups are going to look like, and they end up, getting stuck in the analysis paralysis of, just this massive team of mostly melee threats with all these weird defensive bubbles and all these extra toys that you get to play with. I'm just kind of curious, since you did pretty well at the World Team Championship, barring your team also helping you out on getting you some matchups. I'm curious what the feeling and strengths of Gellerpox are when they're really kind of humming on all cylinders. Because at a 5-2 record, even if your team was giving you easy matchups, you still had to finish the job and play well. So I'm curious, what sorts of feelings are you having? You said you have 2 Gellerpox Hulks go in first, and you have the 2 basically defending those 2, and then the small guys running around on the sides. But is there any other kind of strong point that you ended up feeling by the end of the tournament, like this is what Gellerpox are really good at, that you could kind of impart on to people who are trying to play Gellerpox?
That's a good question. Honestly, what Gellerpox are good at is if you know your opponent team well enough, they have may not be the best tools, but they have an answer to most of the teams out there. They struggle against shooty hordes, so anyone who can shoot across the board is a no-go. But with melee teams or teams that have like elites, less activations than you, they're very good at staying alive and dealing damage when needed. But also, at least in our previous TAC Up season, they didn't require to win. They didn't require you to actually go and face your opponent. You could just stay behind and score, and I think that's their strength. Like you have so many little things and that can do tricks, so to speak, right? Like the glitchings can do mission actions.
They're impossible to shoot.
They're impossible to shoot. Yeah, somebody has to get really close to that, which makes like okay, the strategy there, you optimize to perform the best actions possible in that turning point with them to maximize the scoring potential for that round. But at the same time, you're kind of baiting your opponent, saying, okay, like if you don't remove my scoring potential, I'll just be looting, like if mission like loot or something,
or even like take ground.
Points.
You could just stand still with your glitchling in a box and tell your opponent, this glitchling needs to die, and you got to send a real piece to go get him because you can't shoot him. You can melee him, instantly kill him, but then the Gellerpox Hulk and the mutants are right there ready to kill him, and then you'll still get to take ground.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I did in most cases. And so that's their strength, right? So they have a lot of tools that allow you to be very reactive to your opponent. It's not just go in and fight team. That's I think the mindsets you have to take when you play them.
And I'm guessing that the Techno Curse actually provides a lot of power for any of your given strategies, right? Was there a single Techno Curse that you used through all 7 rounds at the World Team Championship, or did you have to change based on your opponents? Because I've heard a lot of the times that, the 1 damage chip of Screaming Rust Spikes, which is whenever your opponent misses an attack, they take 1 damage, is really good for any melee matchup because you break a lot of parity, because suddenly your 10 wound model is a 9 wound model, which gets 2-shot by a bunch of random stuff on Gellerpox. And then Barrel Warp, keeps your glitchlings alive, keeps your Hulks alive against a shooting team. And then I don't know if people talk too much about viral Vox static at this point.
I only used it once for the fun of it, like when that balance came out, when this Techno Curse was added as an option. But honestly, I couldn't find any at least in the matchups and games I had so far this year, I couldn't find any justification to take that techno course.
Yeah, the viral Vox static is the 3-inch bubble of no APL changes or 4 inches around a glitchling, which is only really going to get used maybe against goremongers or anyone else with a lot of APL shenanigans. But then when you're fighting against goremongers, you want to do the melee stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So our strategy with my team was I was the melee team answer, right? So I picked Gellerpox specifically because we anticipated to face a lot of elites. Probably Nemesis Claw it's one of the more popular ones. Death Guard, Goremongers, Raveners, and Chaos Cult, right? So we were targeting those matchups, and in those cases you always take rust spikes. I One of my losses was against Pathfinders. I did take Barrel Warp, but it didn't help.
Yeah, because they probably shoot you from a long ways away. It's kind of hard to get that one to go off because it is a shooting debuff, but only from super short range.
Exactly, and even like I tried to play safely there and like hide my hulks behind heavy terrain. We played on a WTC map, which there's plenty of options, but at least you could make yourself obscured, right? The problem with Pathfinders is with 4 macro lights, they ignore obscuring.
They ignore obscuring, they ignore light terrain, they got extra juice.
Yeah, exactly.
Just cheat on all the shooting rules, and then if they're using the big guns that have 5 attacks, then it doesn't even matter they lose 1 attack. They'll still hit you pretty hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So in that case, it's just and they don't want to get in melee with you anyway. So that would be the only curse you take against them. But at least in that matchup, it wasn't that helpful. I have to say.
Yeah, I've seen that Barrel Warp, which is -1 attack from enemy ranged attacks, do a lot of work on in the dark when Brood Brothers are trying to lurk up to break the 2-inch bubble and throw a crack grenade at a big Gellerpox Hulk. And then suddenly your crack grenade that hits on 4s only has 3 dice. And then it's really not likely to do much of anything. And then it just becomes a free staging point for your Hulks, right? For, exactly. your little guys.
Funny you mentioned Into the Dark because in the previous edition, Into the Dark was like the most favorite map for Gellerpox. They were a menace there. I went to one of our local tournaments in the last edition, taking Gellerpox, and it was easy runs when I would get a map on ITD. In this edition, not so much.
What do you feel like changed in the changeover that kind of hurt Gellerpox so much? Because obviously we're going into Tomb World, and I'm curious if those same problems are actually worse on Tomb World, just because Tomb World is actually even harder to get into and out of rooms because of the 2 APL attacks that really the Gellerpox don't have a good way to get around on those breachable doors.
But that's only for breach points, yeah. Again, you can use your glitchlings for that, right? You can just stage a glitchling next to a breach point and do like breach with one, and then group activate the second one to move forward and do mission actions. I don't think that's a big problem. Obviously, it's in terms of activation economy, that is definitely something you have to consider. But what hurt Gellerpox was the fact that hatchways are accessible terrain, so you lose an inch moving through it. And since last edition, their movement stat got down. So before, only the mutants were 5-inch move, and the Hawks were always 6. And now the Hawks are also 5-inch move, which means going through the door, you only have 4 inches. And considering that at least the official ITD maps are just shooting galleries, you have to take a heavy barricade almost every time. just to allow yourself to get into a room and stage just a bit. But may not work with in all cases, because sometimes the room is just too far away from your deployment zone, so that heavy barricade is no help as well. So yeah, I think the two things that hurt them was the movement tax and the fact that there's almost no terrain to hide behind. And Hulks, for those who don't know, they cannot use light cover for to not be targeted. So essentially, they can still retain a cover safe, but it doesn't matter if they have a conceal order or not. And on ITD, there's no cover that unless you provide it for yourself. With Tomb World, I think the maps are a bit more maze-like, so it allows some form of staging, and plus there's light terrain, so maybe even light barricades won't be always a must take, because now in ITD you always take light barricades. That's like an auto take.
And I guess another large upgrade for this edition, now your ability to remove someone's equipment is guaranteed to be extremely annoying compared to
yes,
2024, where you could save an equipment option for scouting and then get the stun grenades that you really wanted to, you smuggle them into the board. Now the Gellerpox, when they see the stun grenade, they've got a fair shot of nuking the stun grenade.
Exactly. Although most of my opponents on WTC didn't know Gellerpox prior or needed a full rundown of the rules, I could see that when I was telling them that I can remove a piece of equipment as a warning, they would take that very seriously. And in most cases, they just would select that equipment with the scouting stuff. So, yeah, the one that they needed, like stun grenades.
A common thing that Gellerpox players have to struggle to deal with, right?
Yeah, there's you're capped at 2 APL, and even your leader has 2 APL, which honestly I think that was something I was a bit salty about in the beginning of this edition, because they were nerfed to the ground with the initial release. And I was at least hoping that the leader would get like free APL, as most team leaders get. Like if you look at any Imperium team, for example, looking at you, space Nazis. Anyway,
we call them Tempestus Aquilons on this side of the planet.
Yeah. So yeah. In that regard, stun grenades are even in the previous edition were a huge counter to the team. Like.
Yeah, now stun grenades do the little explosion, which is even more spooky, right? Because if you hit a small cluster, you hit a glitchling and a mutant, suddenly those two pieces are basically useless for the next turn cycle.
Yeah, that's actually, I think you're spot on, because the hardest thing about playing Gellerpox is not even learning the rules or learning to like what kind of matchups, is learning positioning, because you have 15 models on the board, and any blast weapon is just your nemesis in that regard. So yeah, it's probably the hardest thing about the team.
And when do you feel like you kind of like locked in on your positioning to avoid blast, torrent, and stun grenades in this edition? Like, was there a big aha moment where you realized like I need to take more barricades to give myself more staging positions, or you started seeing like gaps whenever you place a model, you make sure that there's a 1 or 2 inch gap next to yourself so that you're not accidentally screening out a future model's position?
You guys, I'm jumping in with a quick advertisement. If you are listening to this and you're planning to go to the New York Open and you haven't bought your tickets already, do it now. Log in right now. We've got a link in the description of the show notes, and get your tickets to the New York Open, and we'll see you there. Same thing for the Renegade Open. New York Open is coming up October 18th weekend, and November 22nd is the weekend of Renegade Open in Minnesota. Grab your tickets. See you there.
I still make those mistakes, to be honest, but there wasn't like a big aha moment, but after losing probably 7 games in a row when we were practicing, it kind of like became as this like secondary thought. Like there's a subroutine now going in my head each time I measure out or plan movement of the models. I try to keep them, even if they're in clusters, they're very small. So, for example, I always avoid keeping glitchlings together, so close enough, or even like next to the mutants and so on. So, if there's a cluster, it's usually a glitchling or a mutant with some vermin, and I try to keep them like as separate as possible. Again, depends on the map. So, what I've definitely learned is that before deciding what equipment to take, like analyzing how many points I have of heavy that I can stage behind, and if there's not enough of it and not enough light terrain, I definitely go. Never took a movable barricade, but I always go with light barricades in most cases, just to make sure that I can spread out all my little guys evenly across the board.
Yeah, and glitchlings are like particularly annoying around light barricades because some models just can't even see them, even if they're within 2 sometimes, just because they're so tiny.
Probably, yeah, but I think you're talking about the rattlings, right? But I
think
only played
and
rattlings.
even Pathfinders might run into the issue just because some of the Pathfinder models like leaned over, so they're kind of hunched.
Yeah.
So it's not.
True.
I wouldn't say it's super common, but there are going to be times where those teeny tiny glitchlings get a little bit of extra use out of the barricades. And I know this definitely comes up on some of the vermin where a sludge grub is actually just small enough where even up within 2 inches or 3 inches, you might not be visible against some opponents just because they are so short.
Sludge grub for sure. Yeah, they're actually the shortest model. So I think even one of these points came up. Huh?
Are they shorter than the Rattling's pug?
I think so. Yeah. Or pretty much the same height.
Yeah, it definitely comes up, because your team has so many of these like weird edge case models, and your opponent has to learn those edge cases. But for you, as a Gellerpox player, you are the one who's like at least experienced all those edge cases, so you get a couple extra bonus points for staging these sludge grubs or just putting it into a spot, and your opponent's like, I think I could shoot that, and you're like, I'm pretty sure you can because you've seen it enough times, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I was always hesitant taking sludge grubs because they're so slow, and I always joke that maybe in Turning Point 4 I'll manage to have a shoot action with one of them, but in the tournament 2 times it came out to the point that the sludge grubs were MVP. They dealt enough damage to just sweep even a Marine off the board, who was already injured. But the idea is that I was expecting I'll probably have 2 shots go through with piercing 1, maybe 1 will go through, and then suddenly I deal 8 wounds.
Because they have 4 attacks on 4 ups, and they have 2/2 damage, but they have 1 inch devastating 1, and if they blow themselves up, they can also deal they can deal up to 1 extra damage for everybody within 2 inches of them. So scooting up a sludge grub within 2 inches of someone, shooting them, blowing yourself up with a 1 inch devastating, and then popping again is theoretically possible.
Yeah, but with a few caveats. First, the blow up is on death, so your opponent has to try to kill the sludge grub, or melee fight and hope your opponent won't parry. And the explosion is on a 4 up. So you still roll a dice, and it's a 50-50 chance.
It's just like chip monsters, basically, as far as like random units go. But on, inside of Volca's Stronghold or on In the Dark or on Tomb World now, 4-on-4s, 2-3 effectively with piercing 1 and lethal 5 is not necessarily that bad. Like you could definitely rely on them to get a little bit of chip through, right?
As an Nemesis Club player, mostly, at least at the start of this edition, it felt very bad to moving to a team that hits and shoots on 4s and more, but honestly, it's still the maths. It works out at the end. So again, there's less chances. You're less oppressive with your shooting, but as long as you don't rely that exactly with that particular action, I'll win the game. You should be fine.
And that's definitely something that you learn, after practice, right? Are there any of the grubs that you're looking at in the changeover to approved Ops 2025 that you're thinking might need a second look to test, depending on the missions and the new TAC ops that you have available?
Oh, one thing I definitely need to try out more is using glitch links to pick up markers and run away. It's something I haven't had too many opportunities to do in the previous season, and I think the most fun thing that I saw in the tournament, my opponent who played Raveners did probably the most sneakiest move ever. We were playing, I think, Intel was Mission 5.
Pilot Intel, where you could put points into a thing and then they become pick upable, and once you pick them up they can no longer be changed, and then they become end of game scoring objectives.
Exactly. And what he did is which I didn't expect. It was the first time I saw somebody do something like that. He staged his leader on the center objective because I didn't want to take initiative on turn point 1 because I thought that I'll stay back and try to just confirm my scoring and only attack if he comes to me. And I gave him initiative turning point 2, and his first activation was I add a point to the objective marker, I pick it up, and I run away. 7-inch move back. That's something I was very impressed to see, and I want to try this out with the new crit ops that we have.
Yeah, I think we've got one of them is you have like all 3 objectives are basically like battery packs, and you can basically pick them up and move them. So now you've got a lot of GA2, which not a lot of teams have access to.
True. I think Chaos Cult would be the other one that could abuse those missions very well.
I'm just want to double check which mission it is before we go on to it, because I want to make sure that I'm saying it correctly. Energy cells,
but it's like hard to pick it up earlier in the game.
Yeah,
generally can't run away with it.
And then with security and seek and destroy, are there? Let's see, because you don't have recon. It is security and seek and destroy, right?
Yes, it's the Gellerpox is security and seek and destroy. Yeah.
So then, are there any TAC ops that you can just like pick something up and run away? Envoy, Plant
I don't think there's any TAC ops.
Plant Banner, technically you could take it and run it to a different side of the map if you can keep away with your glitchlings.
Like, further in.
Yes, you have to run, and it. So the thing is that the rules of the TAC op say that it has to be on the board. So, and since you don't have access to free like an extra APL. I don't think it would be possible for you to pick up, move away, and drop it. Only if you have, counteractions. But again, then not being an elite team, it means you have to keep your glitching on engage.
Yeah, I guess the only reason why you might want to do it is if you think that you're going to lose the point anyways, and at the end of turning point 2, you pick it up with a glitchling, run it backwards, and then suddenly it's deeper in your line, and then the following turn that glitchling runs over to a whole different part of the map because now he's traversed 12 inches and then he yeets it into, your opponent's drop zone. There's probably range where that's possible, but whether or not dragging your opponent's attention with a glitchling is going to be worthwhile, that's up to you and your tactical decision making, right? It's just one of those things where you're like giving up a guaranteed set of points if you think that you can win that Plant Banner. But if your opponent's going to kill all of your guys, maybe it's worth sending in the glitchling and stealing the flag.
Probably, yeah. Well, it's worth when you want to counter your opponent. So I think if I go into a security team that also would use plant banner, I think my strategy would be to actually steal the banner and run away. Because that mission is only once per game. Once you plant it, you can't do that mission action anymore. So that would force my opponent to literally come to the glitch link or the mutant who picked it up, and try to kill it.
Oh man, I'm definitely imagining worlds where ratlings can abuse their opponents because they can also do security. And so you plant your beacon and then force your opponent to play beacon off, and then you larcenist or the Kroot can just like steal the banner and run off to the other side of the map, and that could be a whole new level of annoying for your opponents.
Yeah, that's true. I'm actually considering. I want to look more into. So I was kind of locked into the security TAC ops because that's what worked for this team in the previous season. But looking at seek and destroy, like I mentioned already, route could be an option, but
dominate and sweep and clear both all seem kind of reasonable because they both play on. You want to fight over the objectives, and dominate. Honestly, I've seen games where the Gellerpox mutants do so much lifting that they have killed 3 things by the end of the game, and if they're just standing there and they have 3 kills, your opponents have to interact with them. And there are some games where your opponents really don't want to have to go fight the Hulks.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think dominate and sweep and clear. Also, I feel like sweep and clear could be even a better choice in that regard because you could just always clear your home objective and then fight over the middle, and then the whole strategy of not trying to get into your opponent's territory unless you really have to still holds, and then just fight over the center objective, and that kind of is very similar to the playstyle already, right? So
so it's important to note
finding a balance.
I think if you clear something, it's not worth any points unless you also sweep it, and then sweep is kill something on the point. So if you clear it, so if you let's see, sweep is when you kill something, and then that gets you a point, and then clear gets you the second point, but clearing it doesn't get you a point if it's not also swept.
Oh, oof. I just opened and reading. Yeah, you're right.
We're off the dominate land. Although I do think that dominate could make a fair amount of sense because this general struggle is a Hulk will survive with like 6 wounds, and your opponent's like, oh, man, I got to go send a whole operative to go kill this. And now if that Hulk has 2 dominate points, instead of him trying to fight over a point, he just runs away into the back into your back line now.
Yeah, and if you go against like a horde, it actually makes more sense. Like you can literally just score most, like at least 4 points in turn point 2 and 3, and then if you're lucky, you'll score another one on turn point 6. But at that point, should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, notably on dominate, survival. You can only score on turns 3 and 4, so you got to survive all the way through. And the play pressures on horde teams have never been higher at this point. Between Canoptech being unkillable, Ravners being impossible for any single horde team to interact with, it's going to be rough for your opponents to justify playing hordes in the current metagame, I think. So,
true.
Thinking about the metagame right now, we talked a little bit about Gellerpox feeling strong when you're playing pretty cagey and defensively. What types of matchups are you looking forward to playing at any given tournament? We mentioned that on In the Dark it's hard right now, so Bandua terrain was where you ended up having some success, I think, at the WTC. Tomb World looks a little bit denser. That seems like a good thing. So we're thinking about denser maps where your Hulks are not going to get shot early on, because that's really the nightmare situation. What sort of matchups are you looking forward to the most? It sounds like you were playing against melee opponents the most before, but is that changing with the new TAC ops where you want to get to your opponent's face and, take ground is no longer an option?
Yeah. Honestly, yes. I do want to try... even on Tomb World, I would like to see how they play into like shooty hordes, because even when I was dreading to go against Pathfinders or Aquilons, and there were a lot of Aquilons on the tournament. But even with Aquilons, there is some. It's not a done and dusted. Like obviously they have a leg up, but still there are avenues that you can take to, if not win, maybe just lose by very marginally, or even secure a tie. And in that case, in those cases, I actually want to try out with the new TAC ops going into shooty horse, and like just to see is the strategy still that viable in terms of can I just maximize my scoring and not really focus on winning, and force my opponent to be more proactive to try to win the game, and then punish them for getting too close to my hulks or like setting up certain traps.
I mean, thinking about the TAC ops that now exist, it feels like Envoy is almost like a perfect fit for that sort of play style, where if you're out activating your opponent, you're at activation parity, you select an Envoy, you tell your opponent, if he crosses your midline, and he's basically staged to do that, you're going to have to interact with me and come out of position. And then once you mess up your positioning, the Gellerpox hulks can jump in, either kill the guy or use him as a hostage and then fling forward for the next turn.
Yeah, for sure. Again, that only works when you out-activate your opponent. When the activations are close to equal, I would say that would be a much more harder thing to achieve. That's actually one of the things why, although Chaos Cult is considered a good matchup for Gellerpox, it's not an easy matchup, exactly because they out-activate you.
Also hopping in again to let you know that Crossfire Games is super sick. The battle box is amazing, and you can order one using the link in the show notes.
Yeah, they're playing the same activation game as you. So have you thought about playing Martyrs at all? We mentioned, you got a lot of disposable guys. They can go stand on the objectives, goad your opponents into the scoring game. And then when they do interact with you, your big hulks or your mutants can team up to go bonk heads, and then they can also score a point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but haven't tried it yet. So Martyrs is one of the ones I still need to try out. I was just right now I'm also playing out with Raveners, because I shelved them after release and haven't touched them because I was preparing for WTC. And right now I'm just having so much fun playing them, but I do hope to take Gellerpox to at least one more tournament here in the Netherlands in early November. At least while they're still classified.
I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to change over roughly. I think there was a Warcom article that mentioned somewhere after the World Championships, which will be November 10th-ish. So, obviously, just like every other scene, your mileage may vary depending on your local tournament organizer. But talking about the Holland scene a little bit, there were, I think, 11 countries at the World Team Championship, Holland being one of them. You want to talk to us a bit about your local scene, how much it's grown over time? Because obviously, with the advent of the new edition of Kill Team and the new terrain, me and Jason have seen a lot of growth over our local scene. So I'm kind of curious, because we haven't talked, with Holland all that much. So, what's kind of been the journey for your local scene, and how has that changed over time?
I think in the last year, there was definitely an increase in interest and also in organization of the tournaments. So last year, Netherlands sent only one team. It was Tulip Titans. And shout out to those guys, because what they did afterwards, they established what is called a non-profit here in the country, specifically for Kill Team. In Dutch, it's called a stichting. Basically, it's an organization that they raise funds, they organize tournaments, and they try to keep a consistent like interest, and grow the interest for new players and so on. And my first tournaments that I went to last year here were organized by shops, and there were always like there was something always going wrong. Either like the mission selection wasn't really appropriate, or was too repetitive, or the maps were the same. In one tournament, we just played 3 games on Octarius, just various maps. And right now, the War Table guys are trying to add all of this variety. That they're also partnering with other stores to help them organize like smaller tournaments at their place. We still have a very small number of players, I think, like active players. I think it's roughly 30, maybe 40 people overall. It's growing slowly, and I'm actually excited to see how this is going to develop with more tournaments coming up. There's one late November, which will be our grand tournament in the here, our 4 rounds, so to speak. For now, it's the only thing that is not happening, unlike in like UK or the States, is it's been hard to organize 2-day tournaments, like more like GT Plus events, which I hope eventually will change. And this year we also had our first team tournament with only free player teams, which was fun, I have to say, and gave us a bit of a taste of what to expect during WTC.
And there are like specific parts of Holland where there are like the most players. I assume, the denser cities tend to be more popular for these sorts of games.
Honestly, not really. Like people are just spread out across the country, if I'm honest. And I live in Amsterdam, and I think we never had a tournament organized here. First of all, there's no big game shops actually, aside from GW. And obviously there it's hard to organize a tournament on their location. So most times we play in different cities, and also parking is a problem in Amsterdam. It's way too expensive. So for people who travel to the tournament on a Sunday morning, also that doesn't really work if they have to pay 25 or 30 euros just to put their car next to the tournament. So yeah, I think we're spread out. In Amsterdam, seeing my local group is about 14 people right now. Not everybody lives. Basically, in Amsterdam, we have like this local group of 14 people. Not everybody lives in the city, just close by, and we play once a week at my place. I can consistently host up to 3 games. I have quite a large living room, a large table that can accommodate 3 kill team games. And we've been quite consistent there. Most of my practice comes from that, like just playing once a week with friends.
It's a good way to catch up with your friends, get some practice games. And I guess when you were practicing for the World Team Championship, that tight environment meant that if you wanted to, you could have other people like watch your game and kind of give commentary, right?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I think we could have done better in our practices, because talking to other players at the event, I picked up, we all picked up quite a few hints of how to better structure your practice rounds so that you would have more results, or at least it would yield you more information and give you more iterations. Like the coach of one French team mentioned that when they were practicing, they were actually playing only turn point 2 and turn point 1 and 2. Hello. Sorry, ADHD. Highway to. Oh, look, a cat. And that's something I think I definitely want to try out when we go for the next round, because it sounds you can like cramp in more games in a single day and get more results and adapt.
Are there any like friendly Holland rivalries right now where, the different cities and different play groups kind of have friendly rivalries going around? Or do you feel like the World Team Championship kind of like coalesced some of the team spirits and now you guys want to spread the game out and get more people playing?
I think it's the latter. There's obviously a bit of playful hazing from towards one another. Like it's again, it's a male-dominated scene, right? And we like making fun of each other. That's how we say "I love you" in that regard. And I don't think there's any rivalries that I can mention. Like it's quite a friendly scene, and very welcoming. I myself, being an expat, I'm not originally from here. I still feel quite welcome in the community here. So it's quite refreshing, I would say.
Yeah, it definitely is very important to be welcoming for any scene, and it sounds like you've got that nailed down pretty well. Yeah, so you said weekly games at your house. You've got a big tournament coming up in November. Did you say how many people you're kind of expecting for that big tournament?
I think it's over 30. So the venue can accommodate even more, but I just don't think there's that many players right now who wanna go a 4-round sweaty game day.
Yeah, are you doing all 4 rounds in the same day? I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, this will be 4 rounds all on the same day. On a Sunday, mind you. So from 9 o'clock till 8. Basically similar to what we had with WTC, right? We had one day with 4 games and the other day was with 3.
Yeah, the 4-game schedule, I feel like tends to be a little rough for some of the newer players just because, locally, even some of the more experienced players that I have, they get to that 4th game, like, I'm glad that I'm taking a break right now. Which is why for the New York Open, we only do 3 and 3 because that way you space out all the games. You have some more time to socialize too.
That's nice. Yeah, I have to say, I don't consider myself an experienced player, but 4 games in a row is exhausting. And the mental tax is insane. I think after day 1, we came back to our hotel and just fell asleep. Like there was no even no discussions about should we go to a pub or like no. Yeah, we had our dinner, we go to sleep and hope to wake up early enough to not be late for the next round.
Yeah, definitely a quick turnaround at the World Team Championship because I think most of the days we were out 7 or 8, and then you're getting dinner, and most of the stuff was kind of closed in Mechelen at the time because there was only a couple restaurants that were like open that were like good. I think some of them were fine. But it was like a pretty tight window because I felt like most kitchens close at like 9-10.
Yep.
And then you've got 1 hour to get your food, eat, and then go to sleep. And then we had to be up at, I think, like 8 or 9 the next day.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, that's typical for small cities in Europe. It doesn't matter if it's Belgium, Netherlands, or Germany. Only big cities you would see like restaurants that work till like 11 or even later.
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm used to just having the convenience of 2 a.m. go get some food, which is not common for everyone.
Yeah, fair enough.
Are there any other, players from Holland or Amsterdam, your Amsterdam local scene that you want to shout out for things that they taught you or helped you learn before the World Team Championship? And, maybe advice that you had on Gellerpox before you went to this big tournament?
Well, Honestly, I'm just afraid to forget everyone, but shout out to my team, Storm from Holland, or the correct way would be Storm van Holland, and to the Windmill Warriors, which is the first Dutch team formerly known as Tulip Titans. Um, I think I what playing with those guys was always like an educational experience. Everyone that I interacted gave me something that made me a bit better the next time. I already mentioned that I once lost 7 practice games in a row, right? Um, that that actually made my winning so many games at the tournament a big surprise, even for myself, because I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, even every game that you lose, as long as you're taking away something for how to do better next time, is a small win in its own way.
For sure. Honestly, as much as yes, Kill Team is a competitive game, and it's always nice to win. But what I enjoy from the experience is not actually winning, but the challenge that you have. Like you have a puzzle at your hands, and you try to like the if you approach it like, oh, what is the uh, minimum amount of actions that I can do to at least not lose by a lot, or how could I like find an answer to what my opponent just did. Sometimes you can't, and that's also fine. But yeah, taking away always like it's a new cool trick, like I mentioned with the Raveners player, or something else is always the best thing. And plus, as long as your opponent is friendly and you're vibing, who cares who wins as long as you're having fun.
Yeah, I think that's the best outlook.
It's definitely the best attitude you can take into a game for actually learning and improving. Because if you go in with a negative attitude, or the winning is the important part, you might miss some small mistakes that you could have optimized even if you did win a game.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you go in with the attitude that like this matchup is totally screwed and it's totally hopeless, like you're really going to be missing a lot of opportunities to like do cool tricks, and like a lot of the cool innovative strategies are something that someone or like the internet opinion might think that that's not a way to play. But if you're open-minded about it, you can come up with some cool stuff and stay positive. And like even on like a competitive side, it's just like staying positive is more fun for everyone, and also just like opens the window to finding cool new innovative stuff.
For sure. It's also what I feel winning is not really when you win, you don't actually learn. We actually noticed that in our practice games because one of our teammates, when we were practicing, he won all of his games, all of his practice games, and he ended up losing 7 games in a row on the tournament, precisely because like he didn't have this opportunity to adjust to new strategies, and even when he faced a team that he already knew, it could have been that he didn't see everything that that team could do, and he got caught by it, unfortunately. So I honestly, if before I would think, yeah, like you should, like you're good if you win like several games in a row. Now you master the team. I think my advice would be lose 10 games in a row, but always try something different in each game, and then try winning after that. Because more likely than not, unless you're playing against sanctifiers, you will have a higher chance to win. I don't know when this airs, but we're in late September right now, and they're still oppressive.
That is fair. They probably will remain until maybe October when this comes out. Or I mean, this by the time October rolls around, this will have been out for a little bit, and we'll see where the Sanctifiers end up, especially before the World Championships of Warhammer.
Yeah, I never thought I'll be waiting for a balanced data slate. Like I feel like the same. I felt the same when the edition came out. Everybody was waiting for the first balanced data slate, and I'm sad to say that right now I'm in a similar state. Like I don't think we're lucky in the local scene. Not a lot of players are like I don't think we even have a meta chaser. I can't point my finger at anyone at this point, and that people just play what they like in most cases. So we're lucky in that regard. But I can imagine that when you go to a more competitive scene somewhere else, it gets tiresome to see sanctifier into sanctifier into sanctifier, or I don't know, higher tech circle, which is also not my favorite team.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, we'll see what happens in the near future. Until then, Serge, thanks for coming on, talking about Gellerpox, especially, digging into what you found good at the World Team Championship, where you went a 5-2 run, and also talking about some stuff that you've tried on the new Approved Ops 2025.
Well, thanks for having me. It was really fun, and I hope what I said helps someone in one or the other.
And for all the listeners out there, if you heard something you liked, call it out. Call it out in the Discord, call it out in the YouTube comments, whether it's playing as or against Gellerpox.